It's starting.
Yay, we're live.
We're doing it. I'm gonna look on my Facebook and start a watch party just to get it out a little bit more
Okay.
to people. Also,
Can I do that too? Or
yes, yes. So we are officially Facebook Live. Good morning.
morning.
I am Pastor Darcy, and I am one of the pastors at Park Avenue Baptist Church. And I am here with Jame Geathers, who is a new addition to our team and works with us as an administrator, and also has such an amazing testimony and mission in life, right? Jame, you are an incredible carrier of this super important message, especially on and during May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Mhm.
And that's just so in alignment with what we want to do. And also, we wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you to the community. You started with us at such a strange, historic, crazy time that so many people didn't even get to meet you of the in our community. So Jame Geathers, so happy to welcome you and have you and get to know you. Welcome. Thank you for being on.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You are in so accomplished in so many ways, um, and so thoughtful and caring in so many ways. Will you just give us an intro about what you want us to know about you? That's a
Wow.
broad question. I can make it more specific, or you can just tackle whatever part of it you want.
Now you know I'm long-winded, so you
I
might
love
want
it.
to. Okay.
I'm
All
here
right.
for it.
So let's see. The short version of me is I'm a mom. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a speaker. Um, and I'm also a bipolar disorder survivor. So that's me in a nutshell. Um, and it's been a crazy, interesting ride. And, but it's all made me who I am. So yeah, that's the
Uh,
short version.
yeah. Well, and we'll get more into all the details. Thank
Hmm.
you. Thank you. And so this month, we're trying to just have conversations with so many people in our community at Park Avenue Baptist Church have experience with mental illness, have experience with overcoming the stigma of mental illness. And we talk about it in so many different ways, like this idea of letting ourselves be known, and in queer community we call it coming out, but it's the same idea, right? It's the same idea of letting people know something about you that has been stigmatized. And so you are such an amazing example of coming out in this
Hmm.
way of you overcome so much to just say, this is me, and I'm not going to let what you might think about this stop me from living into my truth. And that is so inspirational. That is just, that's it. So you have an amazing TED talk
Hmm.
that you did via TEDx Augusta,
Hmm.
correct?
Correct.
And yes, it's so, I mean, it's so poised, but at the same time, you just let yourself be seen and known, and it's emotional. It I got emotional in the hearing of it. Do you want to talk about that experience?
Sure, sure. It was an amazing, terrifying, life-changing
I
experience.
bet.
I remember, so I have to give you the background because you know
Please
me,
do.
gotta
Yeah.
tell the story. So
Contextualize us.
when I've been a huge fan of TED Talks for as long as I can remember them being out. And I remember seeing that there was going to be a TEDx Augusta event. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I wouldn't have expected it here, but yay. And so I'm on the website and they're looking for speakers. So, and I tell everyone, just a disclaimer, I do believe I may have been manic during this time. So that's just disclaimer number one. And so I see they're looking for
That's okay.
speakers, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And so this is in the middle of the night, and I had no idea what I was going to talk about, no speech written. And so I decided I'm just going to apply. So, well, you start the application and you realize you have to have a subject, you have to have some type of context around what you want to speak about and why. And I had none of those things. And so I basically just stayed up all night, which another sign that I was probably manic,
Symptom, right?
um, and just knocked it out. Had no expectation that I was going to get chosen. And so I entered the process of these speaker applications. And over 4 interviews, I kept getting through to the next level. And I was just like, really? Like, you really? And so I'm thinking by the fourth interview, maybe I should actually write a speech because I still had not written a speech yet. And so, well, the talk, sorry.
Right.
And so when I was told I was chosen, I was like, oh yay. And so they assign you coaches. And I said, well, what do I do? And they said, oh, just bring your talk that you have written already, bring it with your coach. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, that talk.
Yeah. Oh, I've been meaning to do that. And so because one of the things about people with bipolar, not all of us, but some of us, when you're manic, you create these lofty goals and have these ideas that you can accomplish anything, but very rarely do you actually complete it. And so I set up, I think I was awake for like 3 days. And during that time,
Mhm.
I wrote my talk. And I met with my coach, amazing coach. Keith was amazing. And, we get 90 days to meet with our coach to kind of prepare for our talk. And so the day the talk came, I was freaking out because it didn't hit me until that day. Like, I'm getting up in front of 1,300 people and I'm basically spilling my guts because I hadn't told anybody. Like, my
But
daughter knew
you're
and my best friend knew, but no one knew I was bipolar. And
right.
so I'm in
Uh-huh.
this, I told my mother and my sister, and um, there wasn't a lot of support. And
Hmm.
so I just kind of kept it to myself from then on.
Hmm.
And so I was terrified because at the time I owned a small business, I'm in a smaller community. What will people think of me?
Hmm.
Was my thought.
Right.
Um, and so that day I'm freaking out and I'm telling my daughter, like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And she's like, Mom, you have to do this because someone needs to hear your story. And I'm like, oh,
That's
crap.
it. Oh,
Yeah.
she's
It's,
your daughter.
yeah, she is. Yeah. And so I
You would
go,
have said that to you, is what I'm trying to
yeah,
say.
yeah, I
Okay.
totally would have said that. It's really irritating though when they say things to you that you know is the right thing and you would say it. It's really irritating. Um,
Yeah.
I'm like, fine. I'm like, but if I pass out on the stage, then it's your fault. And she's like, you're not gonna pass out, because she's level headed, and I'm like, thinking, horrible things will happen.
I know.
And so it was amazing. Right before I got on the stage, I said I need tissue because I'm like, I'm going to cry because
Hmm.
I remember through all the rehearsals I cried, writing the talk
Hmm.
I cried, and um but I got up there and it was amazing. The audience was
Wow.
so just in tune to what I was saying. And the number one thing I worried about other than passing out on the stage was I worried about when I had my jokes that no one would laugh. And
No.
because that's the worst. Like, if you crack a joke
You're
in
like,
front of a room full of people and they're like nothing. But it didn't happen. It was amazing. Anyone who has an idea or story to share, I would strongly recommend it. Um, but in a sense, it was like me coming out because, and I think I said that in my talk,
hmm,
because this was it. I had not, exposed myself, and I was just putting it out there. And I'll tell you, the moment that I knew I had done the right thing was after my speech. So many people came up to me, and one in particular, it was a young man, and he said, I struggle with depression. And he was telling me how, it meant so much to him to know that someone else was experiencing the things that he was experiencing.
Mm,
That was like that moment. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I was really moved. I was really moved by it. Maybe we can on the Facebook page, or maybe we can follow up and put the link to it because it really is. Um, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. Well, and so you mentioned, and if you don't want to dig into that part of the of your story, that's okay. You mentioned that you kind of got some pushback when you did tell people that you were going to do it. What do you think that comes from? I mean, basically, what I'm trying to get at is some of the stigma, and particularly the stigma, I would say, from hearing it from people, right? That's not my experience, but um my own experience of mental illness is I have mental illness as well,
Hmm.
and there's stigma involved, but as I understand it, it is particularly higher in the Black community. Can you talk a little bit about your experience and maybe broader than that?
Yeah, it's my experience has been zero support as far as family, because it's always she's dramatic, she's moody, and I'm like, no, I have a diagnosis. you know
Hmm. Hmm.
and it's not, I don't choose this, I don't want this, I thrive in spite of it. But just because I do well, 3 weeks in a row, when it all blows up and I'm struggling for a week, 2 weeks, a month, I'm not, you know it's real. And for me, I found, in my family in particular, it's more of a, yeah, you say you have a diagnosis, but we're not talking about that. We're not acknowledging that. When I gave my TED talk, the only member of my family that was there was my daughter.
Mm.
And, the rest of my family, the majority of my family was local. So they just
Mm.
didn't show up. Um, my sister, I think she's starting to come to terms with it because she actually watched my TEDx talk, in December. Now, keeping in mind, I gave my talk in February of 2018.
Mm.
So, there's a little lag there. I don't believe my mother has seen it yet. Um, it's just, it's difficult. And when you go through the daily struggles, and when you're manic, or when you're severely depressed, when you're all over the place and there's no support, it's really difficult. But I've been
Mhm.
really fortunate to have friends who see me and understand, this is what's happening, this is why. Even when I don't want them to explain to me, okay, no, you shouldn't do this or that or the other because you're manic, or no, these aren't your real thoughts, you're depressed.
Mm.
um One of my really close friends, Sky, she has been really, really super supportive, and she's that friend that when I don't want to hear it, she's like, no, you need to hear this, this is what it is. And I'm like, no, no, no. She's like, no, this is what it is. She's that grounding person. And I'm so grateful for my friends, and for my daughter. But the flip side of it is, when you're manic, you get angry because you think they're trying to stifle me. But when you know
Mm.
but when you're depressed, you feel like a burden. And I've
Mm.
worried about that because since I had a lack of support and a lot of shame around my diagnosis, because the I guess the human thing to do is, when other people don't support you, or when other people don't acknowledge you or don't see you, you think something is broken with you. And so you
Mm.
feel a sense of shame. And that was really, really hard for me. I shared in my talk that I planned to commit suicide.
Mm. Mhm.
And it was because I felt like I was being a burden on my daughter,
Mm.
because she was my only support system. I was just trying to hide it, trying to keep going, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So yeah, there's a tremendous amount of um, shame and lack of support, and it's sad for me to see that in, especially in the Black community, um, and we tend to support each other on so many other things, but that is
Mhm.
just one of those things we think it's a white person problem, and that's, mental illness has no color, no
Right.
gender, nothing. So
Right.
yeah.
Yes. Well, and what I'm hearing is you created a community of friends and support and outside of your family as a result of not well as a result of being who you are, because you are a connector and a community builder in so many ways. But I see that also in many communities where something is stigmatized. One part of them is stigmatized. We create chosen community, chosen family.
Hmm.
And I'm so glad that you had that support to get through it. How are the ways that now, I mean, so as I am getting to know you, you
Hmm.
began working with us when was it? Now I'm
uh
showing that I can't.
March,
It was like the beginning of March.
yeah, like maybe the second week of March.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so then like literally 2 weeks into March, we start the pandemic. The pandemic is in the United States, and we're realizing how serious it is. And
Right.
so we start working at distance.
Hmm.
So this is the amount of time that we've known each other. We've literally met in person like 4 times,
Yeah.
maybe. But I feel a connection and a and
Hmm.
and a community with you.
Hmm.
And as I've experienced you, even from that first time we talked, and it was in an interview, and um I could just see how open-minded that you are. And we had no idea about, these are things that you shared with us later, and
Right.
and I shared with you the things that I'm very open about in terms of my own diagnosis. But right from the beginning, I could tell that you were just so open-minded. Um, and uh, so do you think that that relates to and has to do with what you've overcome and the ways that you have been sort of marginalized within your community as a result of your mental illness?
I do. Well, it's yes and no. I think part of it is that. Part of it is my personal experience, but I would also say the other part of it was my grandmother. My grandmother loved every single person that she met. I mean, when I say loved, I mean she made sure if you were hungry, she would feed you. If you
Mm,
needed to talk to her, she would listen. She welcomed people into her home, people that other people thought were questionable. She was that person. And I saw that, over the years. I saw her empathy for people. Anytime someone had a loss in the family, she was there just to pray for them and to be kind to them and just to be there. And she is the standard for me.
mm,
Um, but, I also think that when you experience being excluded, when you experience a lack of support, when you experience being judged, I think it opens your heart to not want other people to share that experience. Of course, sometimes it goes the other way, but
mhm,
in my instance, in my experience, it made me want to love other people because I know what it feels like to feel alone, to feel um, like if you went away, no one would care. So,
mm,
yeah, definitely.
mm. Yeah. Well, and so let's bring it back to Mental Health Awareness Month.
Hmm.
And, in the process of creating services together,
Hmm.
um, it was, we do a collaborative, right? We are a collaborative team. And it's been so great to have you join the team. We also have Liz now on the team in these ways of collaboration. And so, we're planning the sermon series, and you are the one who's like, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And we are like, oh my gosh, thank you. Like, yes. And so then we, jump on board and start adapting liturgy and creating space in service for this. But it really is your idea. I want to acknowledge that and say, and so tell us about your mission. You called it your mission, tell us about that.
Well, for me, it's all about empowering other people. And whether you're empowering people to feel seen, to be heard, to not feel alone, um, I don't want anyone to feel like they have to hide who they are. Um, your diagnosis, of course, doesn't define you, but it's a part of who you are. And you shouldn't feel shamed. You shouldn't feel like you have to worry about people leaving your side or losing your job or losing a client or any other damage to you because of who you are. And to me, that goes for mental health and any other circumstance. It
Right.
shouldn't, whatever defines you, whatever is a part of you, shouldn't exclude you. So that's what that I feel really strongly and really passionate about, helping people feel included and
Mm-hmm.
empowered. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. And and the more that we talk about these things that, either have marginalized us within our communities, or we think are going to, the more we
Mhm.
talk about that, the more we're ending the stigma. We're ending the stigma to say, this is there are so many different ways that people are in the world, and there are so many different ways. And I love the way you call yourself a survivor, because you are. You are a survivor. I am a survivor, and so many, not just in the Park Ave community, so many people in the world are survivors and need to hear those stories on the good days, on the bad days, because I really believe when one of us isn't strong, another is, and we can
Right.
hold each other together in that community. Um,
I
so what
think
are the? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's super important for people to realize, even on their worst day, they're still a survivor. Because a lot of times when we're going through our day to day and we're going through our struggles, whether we're up or down, we have anxiety or whatever is going on, we feel weak and we feel like we're not surviving. But every day that you push forward, you survive. So
Yes.
people just need to remember that.
Every day is a victory. Every day is a miracle. That's what
Exactly.
we say in recovery. One day is what we're granted, and today is that moment to take care of myself. I say these things out loud because I need to hear them
Right.
myself, right?
Mhm.
I love that. I love that, and I see that in all that you do and that you bring. And what was I thinking of? So, Mental Health Awareness Month, and this idea of really allowing ourselves to be seen and known is so powerful. And and basically your TED Talk is like a testimony, in my opinion, and that's real Christian-y language. um but yeah, so what are the parts of that testimony that you want people to know about you in the Park Ave community? I mean, obviously they can watch the TED Talk too.
Uh, yes, please do. But I guess the pieces I would say, hmm, you never know how your life can impact someone else. And so, one of the things I touch on during my TED Talk is, um, I lost a friend to
Mm,
suicide.
mhm,
And it happened a little bit like maybe 6 weeks before I was planning to end my life.
mm,
And I had a schedule because that's the person that I am. I schedule everything. It's just a problem. Um, but I
I
had a
love that
date.
about you.
Thank you. I had a date. I had a method,
Mhm.
and it was all centered around my daughter ending her school year, and not wanting to disrupt the school year and exams. And my friend ended his life 6 weeks before. We didn't know of him having a diagnosis. We didn't know about him being depressed. We knew he was stressed out, but that we didn't think it was that much. And
Wow.
so if I could say anything to anyone who hears this, be mindful of yourself. If you need help, reach out to someone and let them help you.
Mhm.
If you see someone who is stressed, who is depressed, who just seems off, even if they seem a little too happy, because when it was getting closer to my date, my mood pepped up because I was like, I'm almost done with this. That
Mhm.
was my mindset. And but just don't be afraid to say something, because a lot of people, even if they don't reach out, they are really craving and really just desperate for someone to reach them. You
Mhm.
can't, you know, you can't, if someone is determined to do it, you can't stop them. But extending that olive branch could save a life. And even if it's yours, extending that olive branch to someone to say, I need you. There is no weakness in that. There
Right.
is no shame in
That is
needing.
the bravest thing, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
just don't be afraid to reach out to someone or for someone, because we all need that. We all do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. And being that friend person who's able to ask the hard questions,
Hmm.
the questions of, do you have a plan?
Yeah.
Those are the key questions. And especially in this time is so isolated in so many ways. It's like this coupling of isolation and then really kind of sharing a lot online,
Mhm.
if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Right.
So
Mhm.
so sometimes that can feel like shouting into the void, right? So really understanding now that these online interactions are so important,
Mhm.
and someone reaching out and being vulnerable, we could all be that person that answers that call to say, wow, I've experienced that, I'm with you. um and
And even,
and this month in particular, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say, and even taking it a step further, because usually someone who has a plan is not going to tell you they have a plan. Um, Letting them know that you're there, not waiting for them to follow up with you, reaching out, even if you feel like, I don't want to bother them, I don't want to be irritating, knowing that you're constantly calling them and you're constantly checking on them lets them know they matter.
Right.
Just remember that. Everyone wants to feel like they matter, and everyone does matter. And sometimes we just need a reminder of that in the form of a friend who repeatedly sends you text messages. And I'm speaking totally from experience here. Getting those messages from a friend who's like, what are you doing? How are your meds going? What's happening? You know, uh,
Yeah.
it's priceless. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, creating a circle of accountability.
Hmm.
um my diagnosis is major depression. And close friends of mine have bipolar diagnosis as well. And we really create a serious, now I think oftentimes, especially in, the idea of accountability can be maybe overused
Hmm.
or undervalued, or but really having those people that, no, 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 I am legit accountable to you. And vice versa, it's a reciprocity in that. And that's the person who, you know will be there, if stuff gets really bad.
Right.
And you've been so vulnerable on this call and on this talk. I want to say, I don't know if you've heard me say this. I share it very openly in sermons, but I did have a suicide attempt at one of my at my last bottom that I reached. So the what I thought would be the end. And that was almost exactly 10 years ago, actually. It's in the end of April is my anniversary. It's also my clean date. And when I began really for this last time, really trying to reach back toward Christ. And so it's this really emotional time of the year, and really full of gratitude time of the year for me, particularly at this time, and it being near Mother's Day, and
Right.
at the time 10 years ago it was near Easter. And so for me that all ties together. Um and and so yeah, the idea of having a plan, um, and of what people around me could, you know, did do at times in the past when I had felt like that. But um, the bottom line for me is, yeah, no one could have maybe stopped me. But there are things that I could have done before it got to that point to care for myself. That there are ways that that I need to focus on letting people in and sharing openly about what happened to me. It is a part of my regular testimony, right? That's not to say it's cool or it's something you want to go through. It's the most terrible thing ever. And so even, you know, feeling that way, I have such empathy for people that are feeling, suicidal, to say, um those are the most painful feelings that you can have. And feeling that, and not acting on it and asking for help, I think is the bravest, most full of courage thing that people can do, is to say, I need help.
But 10 years, that's amazing. And you know the saying, when we know better, we do better. And you weren't at a place where you were able to let people in, but now you can reach back and you can help pull others out, or at least be that sounding board or that support system. And that's a beautiful thing because, our testimonies, we have to go through the trial and the test to get it. So, you were brought through it for a reason. And I know I'm for one grateful that you're here, and I know many others are too. So thank you
Well,
for that.
thank you. Thank you. And it's such a blessing to get to work with you and to see the ways that you walk the walk. You really do. Um, do you want to talk a little bit about and don't feel like you need to, or share however much you want, of course, but what brings you to Park Ave? Why are we so lucky to get you? I kind of I'm big into gratitude. I think in this time, I think I'm always big into gratitude, but particularly in this time,
Hmm.
um, I heard recently someone that I really respect said grief and gratitude go hand in hand, right? And so we're in this huge time of grief. And I, you know, allow myself to experience that. And I think equally want to and strive to allow myself to experience gratitude. And so I'm so grateful for your presence, daily, really working with you. But tell Park Ave a little bit about how you find yourself with us.
So I remember first seeing about Park Ave, about, the need that you had. And I started looking into the church, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for, because
Mm,
I've been in church as an adult all my adult life. And you know how you go to church, you hear the message, and then you leave. You don't feel connected. You don't feel like
Mm,
you have a church home. You just feel like you go to church.
mm,
And that's how I felt. And I was a member of several um churches with a lot of nice people. But I also knew that it wasn't a church where everyone was welcome. And
mm,
I have a problem with that because I believe that God is love and He loves all of us. He wants all of us.
mm,
And if everyone is not welcome, if everyone is not loved, if people walk out of that church feeling a sense of shame rather than feeling like they were loved on and feeling like this is something I want to be a part of so that I can grow closer in my
mm.
relationship with God and in just in general, that is not where I want to be. And I found that at Park Ave. I just think that you can feel the love radiating from when I came to the church and when, I met with you and Henry and you talking about the different things you're doing at the church and then seeing Lost and Found and seeing all these different ministries and just seeing the things that are going on and just the hearts that y'all have for reaching everyone, you know, to making sure that it's inclusive for everyone. Everything from, you know, um, and I know I'm gonna mess up, but the LGBTQ plus.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got it.
And from that community to just the section of the church in the sanctuary where there's a space for people who have children where they can sit with their children during a service. You don't see that in a church. It's like either you sit in the sanctuary or your kids go to somewhere else, but there's no place to make everyone feel like they're a part of the service. And just the fact that the environment is there, just an environment of love. That's what drew me into Park Ave. Just the love. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, we definitely felt that from you talking to you and that came through immediately. That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. And hopefully we'll get to meet together as a community again.
Mhm.
I remember the first Sunday that we canceled, you said that was going to be our first Sunday at church. And I was like, oh gosh. Well, I'm glad nobody's going to get sick.
Yeah.
And, that's the most important is to keep everyone safe. But thank you. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And yeah, we're so lucky to have you and to have you and to live into what your mission is because that's ours too, and I think there's so many times that there's so there's so much in the world, right?
Mhm.
So how do you even choose? Like literally on the first day of May, I'm thinking about Mental Health Awareness Month and I saw that it was, I'm going to make up something because I can't remember what it is. I saw that it was like people who have guinea pig day and like it was just all of these days and I said I made up one that was silly but a lot of them are super serious as well, so
Yeah.
for us to be able to focus in on mental health awareness month and to say um, to those folks and to ourselves, you are seen and you are loved and you are whole. I think that's one thing that I wanted to talk about. um I adapted a liturgy for service on Sunday that is it's a call to worship and Liz Hutchinson also wrote a call to worship. So I kind of combined these two ideas
Mhm.
into one. One's from I think the UCC church has a lot of resources on elevating
Mhm.
mental health awareness month. And that was one of the things is like we are whole as we are, right?
Mhm.
And I think the healing narratives um and this idea of Jesus is a healer. Jesus is a healer, right? And a fully accepting and loving embodiment of God, right?
Mhm.
So intention, we hold, healing. And often, if I am in a depressive state, I will pray, right? I will pray for that to be lifted.
Hmm.
But simultaneously, I am whole. So um, maybe we can talk, and if you want, about how unknowingly a church can stigmatize a person with mental illness, or a
Hmm.
person with like physical disability as well. Do you have experience, sitting in church and kind of hearing that healing message and being like, and I'm living with, right?
Right. Yeah. It's so funny because um, I was also diagnosed with congestive heart failure uh, last year. The days are running together in
Right.
2019.
Today is Wednesday.
There you go. And it's so funny. The response was a complete 180 from when I was dealing with my bipolar diagnosis. It was,
Yes,
oh,
talk about that.
you
That's
know,
wow.
with bipolar, it's people literally said to me, "It's all in your head," and I'm like, "Yes, it actually is."
In fact.
That's a part of it. That's exactly what it is. And, people would say, well, you just need to pray to God for God to help you to be strong and to, just be healed of that. I'm like, okay. Now, I believe in prayer. I start and end every day with prayer.
Yes.
However,
Both and,
you
right?
know, that's just like if I had with my congestive heart failure, I pray about that too. However, I know that if I continue eating a super high sodium diet, excessive fluids, and not taking my medications,
Hmm.
I'm not going to be around for a long period of time. My body's just going to wear down and it's going to be gone because my body is human.
Right.
It's not designed to last forever. Now, the same thing with my bipolar. If I'm not practicing self care, if I'm not supported, if I'm not, some people thrive with medication, some don't. I am one of those that
Hmm.
does. Um,
Well, sleep is one of those universal things, right? Like
oh,
for me,
yes,
sleep patterns.
sleep is huge. And, like for me, I was averaging anywhere from 1 to 3 hours of sleep a night.
Hmm.
And then sometimes and that would start the cycle of triggering me into mania where I would be up 3 to 5 days at a time, and it was just a nightmare. So you're
Right.
right, sleep is a big deal. I believe in praying over all things, but I also believe that we have to also take action.
Mm.
And one of the things that I felt was a real struggle in some of the churches I attended was there was either no acknowledgement of mental illness, or one even actually said that it was a result of sin. And that
Hmm.
was the hardest thing to hear because there's enough shame around having a mental illness, but to hear that, my pastor's opinion was that it was a result of sin, my
Mm.
sin. And I'm like, okay, so you're saying I did this to myself. That doesn't help. That doesn't,
Mm, right.
it's just like, if someone is struggling with a physical diagnosis, and, it's something that may have been brought on by different lifestyle choices. And, it is what it is. It's not going to take it away by shaming the person. Help them through it, love them through it. And that
Right.
wasn't the experience that I had when it came to bipolar. When it came to the heart condition, oh, everyone was like, oh, let's do what we can for her. Let's pray for her. Let's, see
Right.
about her. Bipolar, crickets. Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so I think to form a circle in my mind, people had the the way and the language to support you in a physical, is it an illness, a physical
Yeah.
condition,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
um so destigmatizing mental health is going to, I think, give people who are well meaning, I mean, I think we receive, sometimes those of us with mental illness receive um, well-meaning people who don't have the language, or maybe who have been taught a way of responding to it from pastors, or whatever sort of communities they've been in,
Mm-hmm.
that isn't healthy. So destigmatizing mental illness, saying these are the ways, and maybe that's what we can move to next, is like, you know offering people ways to respond to us when we're in that, whether it's mania, depression, whether it's whatever it is, right? Offering people ways that they can support us, I think is a way to offer resources to people who, I can't imagine, and maybe this is just my, um what do I call it? Like obtuse optimism, which you might share with me, which maybe
A
makes
bit,
me love
yeah.
you even more. Um, but I can't imagine that they wanted to hurt you, in that moment. They were talking to you because they wanted to offer something.
They wanted
Um,
to give me a solution. They thought that I firmly believe they thought that that would fix me.
mhm.
And I think that's
And
where they,
prayer does work on us, it does.
yes. Hmm.
There are studies, there are things that really talk about the benefits of prayer, and I think, you know there are different ways that people can believe about it, but yeah,
I,
it helps
I
us.
believe that. I do. I mean, I have, and one of the things that's helped me is in my Bible app, I have different Bible studies I do. I do one in the morning, one at night, because I just have to. And so
I love it.
I have, for a couple of things that I struggle with, whether it's mania or during depressive states, I have different Bible studies queued up, just sitting and waiting for those times. And so
Mm-hmm.
if I feel myself drifting towards dark thoughts and feeling like I'm going towards suicidal, then I have a specific Bible study that's queued up and ready for me just to read a day. um and I haven't finished it because it goes on for several days, and just, fortunately I have not had enough days to finish it. And
Mm.
so, and I don't read it every day, it's just on those days when those
That
thoughts come.
particular one.
Exactly. If
That's
there's,
beautiful.
other things that I'm struggling with, I have them just on standby. And so I do believe in prayer, and a lot of the time I'll pray for peace,
Mm-hmm.
um, and or for my thoughts to calm down. But sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you don't know you're in the middle of it, and
Right.
you don't know what you need to do. But I think that's also a time where that support system comes into play, because I believe in the power of prayer, but I also believe that there needs to be action.
Right.
So, yeah. And so, people
Right.
praying for you from a distance, if that's what all they can do, which is powerful, then that's wonderful, because at least they're caring about you. I
Right.
just think they need to be careful when they're shaming people, making them feel like it's their sin or it's their weakness that's causing them to have mental illness. That's the thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've been really, my intention for this week is to approach all things with curiosity. And
Mm-hmm.
so, even if that's a suggestion to make to folks, so I might find myself in a situation where I don't know how to help someone, simply asking
Mm-hmm.
what would be helpful to you,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes that can be a burden too. I think when people are experiencing grief, it's hard to really know what can be helpful, but even just a posture of curiosity, a posture of, you know how can I help, or even just asking, like, well, what is it like, or um can be a way to approach if we don't know, if we
Right.
literally don't know,
Mm-hmm.
um I think that's helpful, instead of coming at it like, well, let me solve you.
Right.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's like, medical science has not solved me. The mysteries of the universe will continue, and community. That's what I need.
But
So,
community is everything though, because even if a person, if they can't relate, if they can't, they haven't experienced it themselves, just being there, just
mhm.
being there, it means so much more than you realize. And even if that person isn't responsive in that moment, just know it means so much, because
Mhm.
eventually they'll get to the other side of it. They'll come out of it. And when they do, they'll see who's still there. Because one of the biggest challenges with any mental illness diagnosis is people give up on you, and
Yeah.
people will walk away. And it's understandable because it's a lot to take sometimes. It's a lot to handle. People, whether you're manic, whether you're depressed, whether you're schizophrenic and you're just all over the place, it's it's a lot for some people to handle. But a part of love is being able to be there. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think that that's as you were talking, yeah, I can remember sitting with people in the middle of a panic attack, which
Mhm.
can look very different for different folks, but and really not being shocked or overwhelmed by someone else's, not bringing my own anxiousness into that experience and just allowing them to be.
Right.
I noticed that my cat is sitting right behind me,
Yes.
and I'm thinking about how that's kind of what animals bring to a situation. Like, whatever emotions I'm experiencing,
Mhm.
my cat can be there and sort of and be that presence. Now, people are different than animals,
Yeah.
being a human presence is much different. But maybe that's why animal presence is so healing, is that
Mhm.
they just be with you. You know what I mean? I say that,
For
and
the
I know
most
that
part,
you love animals.
I do. And for the most part, they don't judge. Now, my cat
Right.
Kitty, she does judge. She judges in everything, just so we're clear. But my dog Johnny Cash, he does not. He doesn't judge. He's just happy to be alive. And if he sees that I'm sad, then he'll just come lay with me and just look at me with those pretty eyes. And
Yeah.
Meow doesn't care though. She's just like whatever.
She's like, get over you.
Yeah, yeah. And Kitty judges. She just judges for an extended period of time. So yeah.
Oh, well, you need a cat like Pin the cat.
I need a cat
Um,
that just cares that I'm alive, but I have
well,
my
you
dog.
you have your
So,
Johnny, right?
yeah.
Right. I love that your dog's name is Johnny Cash, the man in black.
Yep, yep. Now he's the man in black and gray because he's getting older,
Great.
but.
I love it. Well, and as like a co-working friendship that we have, uh, you know, being at home like this has really actually invited a level of like knowing someone that's different than what we might. I mean, I think
Yeah,
both of us would talk about our animals at work,
yeah.
but we might not get to see them on camera regularly.
I
So,
literally had to close the door, and I think Johnny's sitting outside the office
like,
because he wants to come in here, and he likes to be seen. Yeah, so
he's
yeah.
a sweet. He's a sweet. But yeah, I think that animals and the presence of of someone, some little
Hmm.
animal person to be in present with you in those times, for me is really healing. I mean, yeah, my cat is my soulmate,
Oh, see,
animal
I can
soulmate.
tell you though, and this is so strange, and a lot of people are like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, um, my my fur babies actually saved my life
Yeah.
because there was an incident where I was just done, and I looked at them and I'm like, oh crap, who's gonna feed them?" And
Yeah.
because I know that my family, they're not big on animals, and so they would probably just turn them in to like the humane society, and my daughter wouldn't be able to take them wherever she would go, and so
Right.
you know it'd be breaking up the family. They
Right.
literally saved my life. So yeah, having a fur baby, yeah, one, it's a lot of responsibility, and
It is.
it's a lot of love, and it it gives you something, someone to be connected to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't had a dog for a little bit. I had a dog years ago.
Mhm.
Um but having to walk a dog is maybe allows you sort of the physical
Mhm.
um to allow you to get some endorphins naturally flowing in your
Mhm.
body. Do you want to talk a little bit about sort of some of your coping skills? And I see that we're coming right up on 10. So
Okay.
um, maybe tell us this thing, and then we could, if you want, I would love to to read the prayer that we're going to read on Sunday
Okay.
and pray together and then we'll say our goodbyes. Is that okay with you?
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. So tell us about your regimen.
So for me, having a schedule is huge. Um, because the structure works really well for me. And it could be my HR background, or it just could be I thrive in structure. I'm not sure which one it is, but it knowing what to expect throughout my day helps me a lot. It reduces my stress, and when I'm not as stressed, I don't cycle as quickly. So I would say just having that structure, everything from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed to when you have your meals, everything structure is my number one asset. I would say number two is, and maybe it should be number one, I don't know, my faith, because knowing what he's gotten me through, knowing where I was and where I could be, but I'm not, that helps me every
Mhm.
day. And
Yeah.
that's why I do a Bible study every morning and every night, because I always want to be mindful of the gift that I have. And I didn't see it as a gift before, I saw it as a burden. And the gift I'm talking about is life. Every
Mm.
day that I live is a day that I could be a support to someone else. I can have an impact with someone else, that I can empower someone else. And so as long as I have another day, I have a gift to give. So
Mm.
that's, yeah,
That's
that's it for
beautiful.
me.
Well, and I think you said maybe faith should be first. I think caring for oneself is such a part of faith. And so as we read this prayer, listen to, I mean, it focuses on the idea of God calls us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And
Mhm.
loving yourself is to have a schedule and to do the things that
Right.
is going to help you and allow you to thrive. So
Mhm.
thank you, Jamie. Ugh, thank you. Okay, I'll say more after we pray.
Okay.
So this is the written prayer, and then maybe I'll say some words. During Mental Health Awareness Month, as every month, we answer the call of God that asks us to love all of our neighbors as we love ourselves, the one who is happy and the one who is sad. We celebrate the freedom that comes with when we accept the love of Jesus and community with the full picture of our whole self. God calls us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, the one who is enjoying mental wellness today and the one who is struggling with mental illness today. Together, we repent of an empire dominated Christian culture that has misrepresented and misinterpreted what it means to be whole and to be loved. God calls us to love our neighbors as ourselves, the one who is marginalized and the one who is privileged. God, thank you so much for this time. Thank you for the gift that is Jamie. Thank you for Jamie's ministry, Jamie's focus, her mission. Thank you for what she does every day to destigmatize, to live into her full truth and her full self, God. Help us to continue to look with gratitude on everyone in our community, to see that you don't love us incrementally. You don't love us as just one part. You love us as a whole, and you see us as whole, God. Help us to see that ourselves. Help us to recognize how prayer helps, how prayer heals, and how action takes us and helps us to live into loving ourselves so that we can love our neighbors. We pray this all in your Son, Jesus' name, our Black Messiah. Amen.
Amen.
Jame, thank you. Thanks for being on willing and having really the idea for our focus during the month of May. And I want it to extend. So thank you.
Thank you. And
Thank
that
you
was a
so much.
beautiful prayer.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, and so I can't wait to continue to grow with you. And I hope Park Ave watches this and gets to know you and begins to love you like we do. So thank you.
I'm just excited to get to know everyone, and we're gonna continue to grow, and I'm excited that one day we will all be together again. So I'm looking
Yep.
forward to that.
Yes, me too. Me too. Thank you. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'm sure we'll talk later.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now.
Thank you all to everyone who has been watching online. I see you, Grace. I see you, Janica. Oh, hey, Janica, Cheryl, James, Mark. Oh, it's just great. I see you, Mom. Hi, Mom. I don't know if you're still watching. Beth Ann, so lovely to see you. Melissa, I'm just calling out names. Kate, Marty, Jennifer, oh, Hank, Whitney. Thanks for everyone who watched and interacted on the Facebook. We're so happy to be able to connect in this way. So we are doing these Wednesday interviews, conversations, meditations each week. And so we hope that you continue to join us. On Friday, Pastor Henro will offer a creative prayer and what we are calling Reimagining Prayer. And so that will be oftentimes it's a drawing or something very creative, a poem or spoken word, something like that. So join us for that on Friday and take care. Love yourself. Love yourself. You are enough. I have his t-shirt on that I'm really happy about. And it talks about destigmatizing this narrative that we sometimes tell ourselves, which is that we're not enough. So you are enough. You're whole. Thank you and have a great day.